My sister-in-law falsely accused me of hitting on her. Her husband texted me, "Stay away from us." I replied, "Done." Then I withdrew my name as guarantor for their new house mortgage. Now their loan has been denied. I told her what you did. "Don't contact us again." That was the text. 5 seconds. One message. And just like that, I was exiled from a family I'd bled for, without even knowing what I'd been accused of. My name is Alan. I'm 39, recently divorced, and until a year ago, I consider my wife's family to be my family too. Her younger sister, Dana, was like my own sibling. Her husband, Mike, was the kind of guy I used to barbecue with every other weekend. We were close, tighter than most in-laws ever get. I even co-signed their mortgage application because their credit wasn't strong enough on its own. That's how much I trusted them. And that's exactly what made the betrayal feel like a punch in the throat. Let me take you back to the day it all blew up. It was a rainy Friday in March. I had just gotten off a 12-hour shift. I'm an engineer for a private firm, mostly infrastructure design and project oversight. Long hours, high stress. I was tired, hungry, and honestly just wanted to fall into bed. Instead, I came home to find my wife, Lena, waiting at the dining table with folded arms and her phone in hand. "We need to talk," she said without looking up. There's nothing more unsettling than those 4 words delivered with surgical coldness. I sat down, confused, already exhausted. Then she showed me the text. From Dana. It read, "He made a pass at me. Twice. Tell him to back off." I remember laughing at first. I thought it was some kind of sick joke. I said, "What the hell is this?" Lena's eyes didn't blink. "Did you?" "What?" "No." "Dana? Are you serious?" I looked at her, stunned. "You think I'd hit on your sister?" She wouldn't lie about this. I looked back at her, still stunned, then said something I now regret. "Maybe you don't know your sister as well as you think." That was gasoline on the fire. She stood up, stormed into the bedroom, and slammed the door shut behind her. I didn't sleep that night. I tried texting Dana. No reply. I called Mike. His number went straight to voicemail. I even tried Lena's mom. She just said, "I don't know what's going on, Alan, but it's best you give everyone space right now." 2 days later, Mike finally responded. She told me everything. "Stay away from us. You're not welcome near my family anymore." I typed one word back. Done. I deleted their numbers. Blocked them both. Then I walked in my office, pulled up the mortgage documents I'd signed as a guarantor for their new home, and emailed the bank. Subject: request to withdraw guarantor status. Reason: recent personal conflict. No longer willing to be liable for this loan. The mortgage hadn't been finalized. I had received an email just a week prior confirming the approval was conditional on final guarantor verification. 3 days later, I got a reply from the bank. Acknowledged. Loan status. Denied due to failure to meet underwriting conditions. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt numb. Let me give you some background. Lena and I were married for 7 years. We met through her sister Dana, ironically. I was volunteering at a university tech mentorship event, and Dana, then a grad student, was one of the organizers. Lena tagged along. She thought I was nerdy but weirdly charming. Her words, not mine. I fell for her quickly. Smart, direct, passionate about causes, and fiercely loyal to her family. That last part should have been a red flag. Her family was close-knit to a fault. If Lena sneezed, Dana would show up with soup. If their mom had a fight with their dad, the girls would huddle like soldiers in a bunker. But there was a dark side, too. Gossip ran deep, and boundaries were paper thin. I always felt like an outsider, despite trying to prove myself. Every family dinner, I was reminded I wasn't blood. But I kept showing up. Fixed their mom's plumbing. Helped Mike get a job through one of my contacts. Lent money when their dad got scammed by a fake roofing company. And, most recently, co-signed for Mike and Dana's dream home because the system's rigged against young couples, as Dana put it. So no, when I saw that message claiming I hit on her, it wasn't just disbelief. It was heartbreak, but it didn't come out of nowhere. 6 months before everything fell apart, Lena and I were already struggling. Not with love, necessarily, but with attention, affection, and emotional bandwidth. She was working long hours in nonprofit management. I was constantly traveling for projects. We rarely connected. And in one particularly bad argument, she told me, "You always think the worst of my family." Maybe that's the problem. Now, it felt like that statement had been a preview of the avalanche to come. In the weeks that followed the accusation, Lena and I barely spoke. She said she needed time to think and stayed at her sister's apartment for a while, which, if I'm being honest, felt like a deeper betrayal than the lie itself. I saw a therapist. I wanted answers, not about Dana, but about why I didn't stand up harder for myself. Why I let the silence fill in for truth. Why I didn't demand a family meeting or ask for receipts or push back with all the righteous fury I felt deep inside. The truth? I was scared it wouldn't matter, that no one would believe me anyway. I had spent years trying to belong in their world. Now I realized I never did. It took 6 weeks for Lena to come back. She didn't apologize, just said, "I want to move forward. Let's not talk about it anymore." And that was the moment I knew our marriage was over. Not because I needed revenge, not because I needed her to beg, but because I deserved more than that. More than denial, more than deflection, more than sweeping trauma under a rug woven by her sister's lies. So I filed for divorce. She didn't contest it. No alimony, no fighting over the house. I kept it. We had no kids, no shared businesses, just shared silence. When she moved out, she left a note. "I hope someday we can understand each other better. I loved you in my own way." That line still stings. 3 months later, I got an email from Mike. Subject line, "Urgent, about the house." He explained that after the loan fell through, they tried getting another co-signer. Dana's parents refused. Too risky, they said. The bank wouldn't budge. They'd already put a deposit down. If they didn't secure financing in 10 days, they'd lose it. He asked, no, begged, me to reconsider. "I know things got messy," he wrote, "but we've all said things we regret. Please don't punish us forever." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I clicked reply. "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm protecting myself. I hope you understand." No anger, no sarcasm, just boundaries. I never heard from him again. But that wasn't the twist. The twist came 2 weeks later, when I ran into Dana in a parking lot. She was alone, struggling to fit a flat-pack desk into the back of her car. I didn't plan to help her, but instinct is hard to suppress. I offered a hand. She said nothing until we were done. Then she looked at me and said, "I didn't think you'd ever speak to me again." I replied, "You made sure I wouldn't have to." She went quiet. Then she said something I'll never forget. "I was angry. You were always so composed, so perfect. And when Lena started venting about your distance, I don't know, I just embellished." It spiraled. I didn't think it would get that far. That word, embellished. Like this was just a mildly exaggerated fishtail. Not the lie that destroyed a marriage and fractured a family. I didn't scream. Didn't cry. I just nodded. Thanks for finally admitting it. She asked, "Do you hate me?" I shook my head. "No, I just don't trust you. There's a difference." Then I got in my car and drove away. After that parking lot conversation with Dana, I sat in my car for almost an hour before starting the engine. There wasn't satisfaction. There wasn't even anger anymore. It was something colder, something lonelier. The kind of emotional frostbite that doesn't sting until later. I just kept repeating that one word in my head. Embellished. Like she had added glitter to a murder weapon. But the truth was out. Finally. And it didn't feel like a win. It just felt necessary. For a long time, I didn't tell anyone what Dana confessed. Not even my therapist. I didn't know what to do with it. What good would it do to broadcast it now? I wasn't looking to be vindicated by Lena or welcomed back by her family. I didn't want to clear my name. I just wanted to rebuild a life that had been quietly falling apart even before the accusation detonated it. And I started with the one thing I'd been neglecting for years myself. When you're married to someone like Lena, someone who constantly centers their family, their causes, their fires, you start shrinking your own life to accommodate theirs. It's like living with a well-intentioned storm. You spend so much time bracing for the next wave. You forget you once loved sunshine. So I started small. I picked up my guitar again. I've been playing since college, but in the last 5 years, it gathered more dust than notes. I joined a local hiking group, bought a decent espresso machine, even took a solo trip to Iceland, something I'd always wanted to do, but Lena once called a waste of money for pictures of rocks and cold air. Funny, the cold air felt more honest than most people I knew. One of the biggest changes, though, was my career. I'd been grinding for years as a senior project engineer. Solid money, good title, but very little autonomy. I had been toying with the idea of starting my own consulting firm for a while, but Lena used to talk me out of it. "It's too risky. We need stability. Your job is already secure. Why throw that away just to be the boss?" And I listened, because love, I thought, meant compromise. After the divorce, I gave myself permission to ask, what if she was just wrong? Within 6 months, I launched a boutique engineering consultancy with 2 friends, both talented, underutilized guys who were also ready to leave corporate burnout behind. We focused on green infrastructure and modular housing, 2 sectors with insane growth and not enough flexible firms. We didn't explode overnight, but we grew steadily. Clients came in through word of mouth. My name started getting passed around in the right rooms. Within a year, we had more projects than we could handle. I worked harder than ever, but it was a different kind of hard. Purposeful. Energizing. And here's the funny part. It was during a panel at a sustainability expo, where I was one of the speakers, that I saw Lena again. She was sitting in the audience in the second row. Hair shorter, dressed sharper than I remembered. Her eyes were fixed on me, like she was trying to solve a puzzle. I'll admit, it threw me off for a second. But then I kept talking about circular design systems, about eco-focused innovation in urban housing. It was nerdy and brilliant, and mine. Afterward, I was chatting with some folks near the refreshment table when she approached me. "Alan," she said, half smiling. "That was impressive." I nodded. "Thanks. I didn't know you were into sustainability now." She laughed softly. "I'm not. One of our donors was sponsoring the event. I came on behalf of the foundation." That's when I noticed her name tag. Lena Bradford, Deputy Director, Future Roots Initiative. I didn't ask questions. I just let the silence stretch. Then she said it. "You seem different. Maybe I just finally made space to be myself." That landed. She looked down, then asked, "Can I buy you a coffee sometime? Just to talk." I should have felt triumphant, like this was some victory lap. But instead, I felt nothing. Not resentment, not curiosity, just calm. "I think we already said what needed to be said," I replied. She nodded, swallowing something hard. "I deserve that." Then, almost too casually, she added, "Dana told me." I looked at her. "Told you what?" "About lying. Or exaggerating. I don't know the full story." She didn't go into detail. But she said she made things worse than they were. I was wrong to believe her so quickly. I stood there, watching her struggle to sound composed while clearly wrestling regret. "I appreciate you saying that," I told her, "even if it's late." She hesitated before asking, "Do you hate me?" I shook my head. "No, I just don't trust you." There's a difference. Same words I used with Dana. The truth is like that sometimes. It has a rhythm. We parted with a polite nod. No awkward hugs. No long looks. Just the quiet understanding that something real had broken, and we both knew it wasn't getting rebuilt. Months passed. I heard from Dana once more, this time through a third party. She had apparently told her husband Mike the full truth too. He was furious, not just at her, but at himself. They ended up not getting the house. Moved into a smaller apartment. Then came the worst part, according to the grapevine. Mike lost his job and started struggling with alcohol. I didn't feel happy about that. He wasn't a bad man, just a coward who trusted the wrong person. Like me once. What did surprise me was the letter I received one afternoon. Handwritten, no return address, but I recognized the handwriting. It was from Mike. He said he owed me 1,000 apologies and probably $10,000 in interest. He said that in hindsight, the idea that I'd ever hit on Dana seemed absurd, and that he was ashamed for how quickly he believed it. "I didn't want to think for myself," he wrote. "It was easier to protect my wife than to question her. But I see now that I let you take the fall for her mistake. I don't know if forgiveness is even fair to ask for, but I needed you to hear it directly from me. Not secondhand, not years later. Just now." I didn't respond, not because I was angry, but because the apology wasn't for me, it was for him. And that was okay. Sometimes people need to say things to clean their own conscience. That doesn't mean you have to open your door again. The more time passed, the more peace I found. I moved into a better apartment, bought a secondhand electric car, and adopted a greyhound named Milo. Terrible listener, elite snuggler. My firm grew to a team of 7. We landed a city contract to design modular, low-cost community centers in underserved neighborhoods, something I'm proud of more than anything else I've ever done professionally. But the best part? I became okay with being misunderstood. I stopped needing everyone to believe the truth, as long as I knew it. That was the hardest lesson, because for most of my life, I was the guy who needed to be seen as honest, dependable, good. I used to equate silence with guilt, passivity with failure. Now, silence was peace. One night, I got a text from an unknown number. All it said was, "I was wrong about you." Truly, I didn't respond. I didn't need to, because the truth has its own way of echoing. The irony of peace is that it's never loud. It doesn't make a grand entrance. It slips into your life quietly, like soft morning light filtering through a half-closed curtain. And before you even notice it, you've gone whole days without reliving the betrayal. You've stopped checking their social media. You've stopped drafting the comebacks you'll never send. That was me, finally breathing, finally being. And then Dana showed up at my office. I didn't recognize her at first. She looked thinner, drawn, like someone who'd been carrying too much weight for too long. She asked my receptionist if she could speak with me privately. I almost said no, almost sent her away. But curiosity, the dangerous kind, won out. I brought her into the small conference room we used for client consultations and closed the door. She didn't sit. "I want to see you face to face," she started, "because texts or emails wouldn't be fair. Not after what I did." I didn't say a word, just leaned back and waited. I'm not here to explain what I did. I can't. It was pathetic and selfish. But I need you to understand something. I never meant to destroy everything. I just wanted someone to look at me the way people looked at you. Like you were important. Like you mattered. That caught me off guard. She wasn't defensive. She wasn't crying. She wasn't even trying to make herself the victim. Her voice didn't shake, it cracked. Like someone who'd rehearsed the confession too many times to feel anything anymore. "I always felt like Lena picked the best of everything," she continued. "The best schools, the best clothes, the best guy. You were the one everyone respected. Even my mom adored you more than she ever praised Mike. It was stupid jealousy. I hated how invisible I felt. So I said something I couldn't take back. And when Lena believed it, I didn't stop her. I swallowed hard." She looked up. "And when you pulled your name from the loan, that was the first time I realized I could lose everything. Not because of what you did, but because of what I did. I was quiet for a long time. Then I said, 'Why now? Why come here?'" Dana's face stiffened. "Mike left 4 weeks ago. He said he can't look at me the same way anymore. We're separated. Probably done. And when I hit bottom, the only person I could think of to apologize to was the person I buried." Her words should have satisfied me. Part of me had imagined this moment 100 different ways. But standing there, watching her confess in that too late kind of way, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt sad. Deep, bone-level sadness. Because none of this had to happen. And now it had. All of it. I finally spoke. "You didn't just mess with my marriage. You convinced people I was something ugly. Someone unsafe. That takes years to scrub off." Dana nodded. I know I don't deserve to be forgiven." And then she did something that shook me more than anything else. She reached in her bag, pulled out a folded sheet of paper, and slid it across the table. It was a signed affidavit. A formal statement, clearly reviewed by an attorney, where she admitted she had lied. That I had never made a pass at her. That the accusation had been fabricated out of personal resentment, not fact. "I don't expect this to fix anything," she said. "But if you ever need it, for your name, your work, your future, I want you to have it." I read every word. Slowly, carefully. My hands didn't shake, but my chest did. After a pause, I said, "Thank you." She took that like it was a verdict. And maybe it was. Before she left, she looked back and said, "I hope the peace you found never leaves you." I didn't answer. I just watched her go. That was the last time I saw Dana. A few weeks later, I got an invitation in the mail. It was a wedding invite from Lena. I had to read it 3 times to believe it. She was remarrying to someone named Adam. I didn't know him, but I looked him up. Nonprofit director, early 40s social justice advocate with a very curated Instagram presence. Lena always liked a man with a cause. What shocked me wasn't that she moved on. We'd been apart for nearly 2 years at that point. No, what stunned me was the handwritten note attached. "Ellen, I know we ended badly, but you were an important part of my life, and I wanted you to know I wish you well. If by some miracle you consider coming, it would mean something. Either way, thank you for the time you shared. Lena." I held the card in my hands for a long time. Then I laughed. Not cruelly, not bitterly, just amused by how life circles back around in ways no one expects. I didn't go to the wedding. Of course not. But I did send her a message. "Thanks for the invite. I'm genuinely happy you found someone. Take care." And that was it. Closure doesn't always come with a climax. Sometimes it arrives quietly, folded in an envelope with gold calligraphy, asking you to witness the next chapter you no longer have to read. But here's where things took a turn I didn't see coming. A few months after Lena's wedding, I was invited to speak at a leadership summit in Barcelona. Big deal. Paid trip. International exposure. We were being recognized for innovative contributions to sustainable development in urban zones. During my presentation, I noticed a familiar face in the back of the crowd. It was someone from a major global NGO Lena used to work with. Later, at the networking mixer, he approached me. "You're Alan Bradford, right?" he asked. I nodded. "That's me. We actually met years ago at one of Future Roots fundraisers. You were still with Lena then." I smiled politely. "Small world." He chuckled. "Yeah, well, I gotta say, you handled that situation with a lot of dignity. Back then, there were rumors. But the way things shook out, people talk. Especially now that Dana's statement leaked." I blinked. "Wait, what?" He raised an eyebrow. "You didn't know?" Someone shared it anonymously with a few donors and internal review boards. A few people who used to distance themselves from you are now, quietly trying to reverse that. That was the first I'd heard about it. I hadn't published Dana's affidavit. Hadn't even spoken about it. I guess she did. Or maybe Mike did. Either way, I didn't care. I didn't need anyone to rewrite the past. But knowing the truth had trickled into the world, that felt just. Not revenge. Not vindication. Just balance. The next morning, I got a message request on LinkedIn. From Lena. Message. I heard about the summit. You're really doing amazing things. I hope you're proud of the man you've become. I always believed you could do great things. You just needed the right space to grow. I reread that last line several times. It felt like an apology disguised as a compliment. Or maybe a compliment wrapped in guilt. But here's the thing. I had grown. Not because I was trying to prove her or anyone else wrong, but because I finally made room to prove myself right. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't need to respond. I was already living the answer. Peace is strange. You think it'll feel like justice, like a parade or a trophy or some thunderclap of cosmic karma. But when it actually comes, it's soft. A room finally quiet. A breath you didn't realize you were holding. That's where I've lived for the past year. Quiet. No updates from Dana. No messages from Mike. No more olive branches from Lena. Just the occasional breadcrumb on social media. Photos of her at events, hand in hand with Adam. Glowing captions about new beginnings. I didn't unfollow her, but I muted her posts. Not out of bitterness. Just boundaries. Meanwhile, my life kept moving forward. Milo, the greyhound, got a clean bill of health after a minor surgery and now runs around like a rocket on legs. My consulting firm opened a second office in another city. We hired a full-time operations director, and I was invited to sit on a regional board for climate resilience planning. In short, everything that once felt shattered now felt rebuilt. Slowly, steadily, authentically. Then, in late March, I got a message that surprised me more than anything else in this entire story. It was from Lena's mother. She'd always been kind to me, even after the fallout. But we hadn't spoken in almost 2 years, not since she awkwardly told me to give everyone space. Now she was reaching out. Alan, I know it's strange to hear from me after so long, but I thought you should know. Dana's in the hospital. At first, my stomach dropped. Despite everything, part of me reacted with worry. She attempted something serious. The message continued. She's stable now, but she's not doing well. She's asked to see you. She says she has something she needs to say to you. In person. It's okay if you don't want to. But I told her I'd ask. I didn't reply right away. I sat with that message for a long time. I had worked so hard to get to this place. A place where I didn't owe anyone my energy, especially not the person who fractured everything. But there's a difference between reopening wounds and choosing compassion. So I said yes. Not for her. For me. The hospital room was cold. The kind of sterile chill that hums from vents and fluorescent lights. Dana was thinner than I remembered. Paler. She looked like someone who hadn't slept properly in months. She smiled weakly when she saw me. You came. I nodded, pulling up the chair next to her. Your mom said you wanted to talk. I don't deserve this, she said quickly. Your time. Your presence. I know that. I waited. I just needed to say, face to face, that I was wrong. Not just about what I said, but about who I was. I've spent so long being angry, jealous, self-centered. But you didn't deserve what I did to you. And the consequences, they've caught up to me. Mike's gone. My job's gone. Most of my friends won't even look me in the eye. And I get it. I do. She paused to catch her breath. But I didn't want to leave this world without telling you the full truth. And she did. Right there in that hospital room, she walked me through every lie. Every detail. Every moment where she could have stopped it, but didn't. She cried, and I let her. I didn't comfort her. Not with words, anyway. But I listened. Fully. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is witness someone's reckoning. When she finished, she looked at me, exhausted. Can you ever forgive me? I thought about that. Then I said, I already did. Not because you earned it, but because I didn't want to carry this anymore. Forgiveness wasn't for you. It was for me. She nodded. Her lips trembled. She didn't expect grace. Maybe that's why it landed. I left the hospital room with no promises. Just closure. 2 months later, I got a letter in the mail from Lena. Handwritten. No wedding stationery or polished script. Just her handwriting on lined paper. Inside was a brief message. Ellen, Dana told me you visited. I don't know what happened in that room, but she's different. Lighter somehow. I didn't think that was possible. I want to say thank you. I know it's late. I know it doesn't change the past. But watching her change made me realize something. You were always the better person. Even when I didn't see it. I hope, wherever you are, you're living a life filled with love, respect, and real peace. You deserve it. Lena. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. Not to forget it, but to leave it. That chapter was done. Fully, finally. Last week, I gave a talk at university. A guest lecture on modular design, sustainability, and how to find purpose in engineering. During the Q&A, a student asked me, "What's the most valuable thing you've learned outside your career?" I didn't hesitate. That peace, I said, is more powerful than proof. You can spend years trying to prove yourself to people who will never see you. You can break yourself in half to be palatable, safe, useful, lovable. But there's a different kind of freedom when you finally realize you don't need to be believed by those who refuse to look. I used to need Lena's validation, Mike's respect, Dana's apology. I used to want people to say, "We were wrong about you." But I don't anymore, because the people who matter never needed the explanation. And the ones who did, well, they wrote their own endings. Mine just happened to be better. Don't forget to subscribe for more confessions, more chaos, and more truth. Only on Ex Confessions Unlock.